All right, micro people. Last video for chapter 21. We're going to talk about just a couple more diseases. So, this protozoan systemic disease, Chagas disease, is caused by an organism in the same genus as the one that caused African sleeping sickness. So, it's a trypanosome of the genus Trypanosoma, and I see a typo right there. That should be an A. Okay, so Trypanosoma is the genus, and armadillos and opossums are a reservoir. So remember that interesting fact about Hansen's disease also has armadillo. So despite the fact that I really want to see an armadillo, I guess we don't touch them, right? Okay, so trypanosoma is transmitted by the bite of this infected sort of beetle looking thing. It has the name of a kiss or the nickname of a kissing bug of the genus Triatoma. And the reason why it's given the name kissing bug is that while you're sleeping, it tends to like to crawl up on your face and bite you. When it does, you get Romana sign. So usually it's bit somewhere around the eye, and you can see that the eye has become very swollen because of the transmission of the organism and your immune system of responding to that. So you get the swelling near the site of the bite. There's some generalized symptoms that might occur, like lymph nodes swelling and some general feeling of, being ill. Myocarditis might occur, but it's not very common. And then you'll enter into a chronic asymptomatic stage that can last for decades. Later in life, the organism will have multiplied and caused enlargement of organs, including the heart, which can lead to heart failure. And you'll see that there are little cyst-like formations where the organism has kind of walled itself off in the muscle. So not every patient will experience all that. It can be transmitted also through organ transplants, and that has been the case. So you can see that the organism has encysted itself in areas of the muscle, right? So you can see that there are some unusual looking structures in the muscle there. This is a close-up of the trypanosome, which hopefully looks kind of familiar to you. And here is the biological vector, the kissing bug. Now, interestingly, here in the United States, we have this organism, the vector, Triatoma, and it's also infected with the organism, but we don't see too many infections occurring because the triatoma here that's United States has slightly different habits. So typically what occurs to transmit the infection is that the kissing bug will bite the infected person and then immediately defecate right after it's taken a blood meal. And then the individual will scratch the bite because it itches, and that introduces the organism into the blood. And that's how humans become infected with this particular microorganism, this protozoa. But in the United States, the habits of the kissing bug is to kind of take the blood meal and walk away a little bit before defecating. And so you don't scratch typically the organism into the wound. So we don't see much Chagas disease being transmitted here in the United States, but we do see immigrant populations bringing it in. We do see cases of organ transplants of people who have donated their organs that have come from other areas of the world that also have transmitted this infection, because once the person is receiving the organ and immunocompromised because of the drugs that they'll be placed on, then they get infected. All right, last disease of this particular chapter that we'll talk about is schistosomiasis. And this is, again, another organism that we've looked at to some degree in the laboratory. But as an adult, it is a fluke form. It's a fairly common disease in the world, right? 207 million cases of this infection. The immune response tends to be to eggs that become lodged in the vessels that lead to the most signs and symptoms. So you can see these incredibly enlarged livers in these children that are affected by schistosomiasis. What happens is that, I'll show you the next slide, but the organism is capable of penetrating through the skin when you enter infected, contaminated waters, and that leads to this condition called swimmer's itch. And these little lesions right here where the organism has penetrated right through the skin. Not too many organisms can actually penetrate through intact skin. This protozoa can, or this little multicellular animal can. Okay, so the diagnosis is going to be by looking for the eggs in the stool or in a urine sample, because that's where the eggs are deposited by the adults in an infected individual. So these Cercaria are what we drew in the lab. If you remember back at the beginning of the semester, we also drew an adult worm. And so the life cycle involves these freshwater snails. So an infectious form that leaves the human in feces or urine gets into water, contaminates it, and this form will infect a snail, go through a life cycle, right? And then release the Cercaria into the water, which then can penetrate intact skin of a person entering the water. And then it will mature in the infected person. Adults can mate, and they find blood vessels in the urinary tract or near the colon where they tend to deposit their eggs, which then are shed. But eggs don't always make it all the way through, and your immune system will react very strongly to those eggs that are sort of stuck in your body. Okay, so this is the end of the chapter 21, the systemic diseases. Hope you found some of them interesting and sort of morbidly fascinating. All right, see you next time.